Good morning, everyone. It's Wednesday. This is the middle day of the week. It's also known sometimes as Hump Day. What animal has a hump? A camel has a hump. Well, I don't know if that's where Hump Day came from, but once you get over Wednesday, you only have 2 more days of the work week left, so you've gotten over the hump. That's what they say. Anyway, I would have started reading this book earlier today, except that Horton, who wanted me to say hello to you, hello, Horton was having trouble balancing on my chair, so I had to get some more tape and tape him to the chair, and now I think he's more secure. Are you feeling better, Horton? Yep, he says he's feeling much better. Okay, first thing I'd like to do is tell you that Horton is my favorite stuffed toy. I've had a lot of stuffed toys over my lifetime. We even have Babar over here who Ruby likes, and I used to like Babar the best. But now I think Horton is my favorite. I just think he's very cute, cuddly, and he likes to listen to my stories, so who could complain about that? Who? You're right, Horton heard a who. Okay, let's talk about this orange and brown baseball hat I've got. The logo or the design on this cap is a football helmet, and it's orange. This is the Cleveland Browns hat. It's one of my favorites because I like orange. I know some of my grandchildren like orange. I think that might be one of Manny's favorite colors. I think Ruby likes pink the best, and I think Anya and Maya both like pink and purple very much, but I'm not sure exactly what their favorite colors are. So I'd like them to tell me. If you could tell your mommy or daddy and tell them to tell me, I would appreciate it, and then I'll know what all of my grandchildren's favorite colors are. When we finished yesterday, we were finishing up reading a book called A Fish Out of Water. And what had happened as of yesterday was they were in the basement and the fish had grown so big and there wasn't enough water in the basement, so a policeman and the boy who fed the fish too much have to get him out of the basement and into a larger body of water. We'll see what happens. So if you remember that, Otto is the name of the fish. And it said when we left, the policeman and the boy were trying to get Otto out of the basement. We had to work and work to get Otto out. Poor Otto. Oh, why did I feed him too much? Mr. Carp told me something would happen. And it did. And what was happening is that he fed him too much fish food, and the fish is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. What's going to happen? Now we had Otto out of the cellar. The cellar is, in this boy's house, it is a room that is below the room that we're sitting on now. It would be the basement or the cellar. It is the room below the main house. Now we had Otto out of the cellar, but Otto had no water at all. A fish has to have water. Fish live in water, and they have to have water because they breathe underwater. They can't breathe outside of the water. A fish has to have water, I said to the policeman. We must take him to the water. Get help. Call for help on your radio. The policeman has a radio in his car. Here's its antenna. And he can call the main office and ask them to send another police officer or more police officers to help him. The policeman called on the radio. He called for the fireman. Help, help, he said. A boy has fed a fish too much. A boy has fed a fish too much. We will come at once. He called the fire department, and the fire department is sending a fire truck to help. The firemen came. They all helped to get Otto up. But where can we take him, I asked. Uptown? Downtown? Look how big Otto is now. He's so big that it takes a fire truck and 4 firemen. Let's count them. 1, 2, 3, 4 firemen to lift him up. It also takes these firemen on the ladder and the whole truck. To the pool, yelled the fireman. To the pool, I yelled, and please hurry. They put wheels under the fish's face. They held him up by the ladder, and they drove him to the pool. That's a big pool. And that pool has a lot of water. Maybe it'll be big enough for Otto. I hope so. Do you have a swimming pool? I know Manny has a swimming pool in his backyard. We have a swimming pool at our condominium project that we swim in, and Manny and Ruby come and swim here all the time. Well, not lately because their new house has a big pool that they swim in. Where do you go swimming? I know that Anya and Maya take swimming lessons. I think Avi takes them too. And I've watched them a lot of times. Almost every time we go to Houston, we get to go and watch my two granddaughters and now my grandson in Houston. Although I haven't seen him, we get to watch them take swimming lessons. I have seen him, but I haven't seen him swim. I bet he's good. I know Anya and Maya were getting very good when I saw them the last time. Down into the pool went Otto, into the pool with a big, big splash. The firemen took him and they dropped him into the big pool. Now I was happy. Now at last my Otto had water, lots of water. The big pool was just the thing. The big pool would hold him. They dropped him in the pool and he sure thought that was going to be the solution. Let's see if it is. Oops. I don't think so. But Otto went right on growing, and no one wanted Otto in the pool. They did not like Otto at all. You take that fish out of here, they yelled. So here you see all the boys and girls that were swimming in the pool, but this fish is so big nobody else can swim. So they had to take him out. Let's see what happens. There was just one thing to do. I did it. I ran to the phone. I called Mr. Carp. Please help me, I said. I fed Otto too much. He goes to a pay telephone booth. Pay phone booth. This is something that you probably will never in your lifetime see because now everybody carries their phone in their pocket. I've seen Maya and Anya using their parents' phone to take pictures. But when we were growing up, if you wanted to make a phone call and you weren't at your home, you had to find a booth that had a telephone in it so you could make a call. Oh dear, said Mr. Carp, so you fed him too much. I knew you would. I always say don't, but you boys always do. Yes, I will come. So Mr. Carp knew this could happen. Boys do things like that a lot. They don't listen very well. Manny, Rex, Avi, you have to listen. Girls listen better sometimes, but boys, a lot of times they don't listen. So you have to listen closely and do what your mother and father and Mr. Carp say. Then Mr. Carp came. He had a black box in his hand. He had a lot of other things too. Look, here comes Mr. Carp, and he's wearing flippers, and he's got a mask on his face, and a little tiny, can you see it? A little tiny, that would be a tennis racket here, and something to scoop up the fish there, and he has all kind of tools, measuring equipment and tools. And his truck says, A. Carp, everything for your fish. What are you going to do, Mr. Carp? I asked him. But Mr. Carp said nothing. He just went right up to the pool. That, by the way, is a net to scoop up the fish in a net. He took his black box with him and all the other things too. Splash, Mr. Carp jumped into the pool. Wow, look how big that fish has gotten. Mr. Carp jumps in. You can just see his flippers, and he's jumping in, and he took all his equipment with him. What's he going to do? Save the day, I bet. Splash! Now Otto went down too. All I could see was his tail. I could not see Mr. Carp at all. What was going on down there? What were they doing down in there in the water? All the people are watching. They don't know what's happening. But I think the fish is getting smaller. Now I could see nothing. Not Otto, not Mr. Carp, nothing at all. Would I see my Otto again? Would I see Mr. Carp again? Mr. Carp, I yelled. What are you doing? Are you all right? He was looking for Mr. Carp and his fish, and he could not see them. What's going to happen? Then up jumped Mr. Carp. In his hand was a little fish bowl. In the bowl was my Otto. Mr. Carp had made him little again. Don't ask me how I did it, but here's your fish. Oh, the boy is happy. Happy, happy. And please, from now on, said Mr. Carp, please don't feed him too much. Just a pinch and no more. Now that is what I always do. Now I feed Otto so much and no more. Never more than a spot, or something may happen. And now I know what. Well, he learned a valuable lesson. Now he just feeds his fish a little tiny bit of food, because that's really all these fish that live in fish tanks need, just a little bit. If you feed them too much, they overeat and get too big, but also it messes up your fish tank. It messes up the chemicals because the food goes to the bottom of the tank and it starts getting rotten, and everything goes bad in your fish tank after that. So you have to be sure just to feed your fish the right amount of food. When Manny and Ruby and Rex get older, my plan is to get them a fish tank. I hope their parents will like it because I always enjoyed having a fish tank. When I was young and had a fish tank, I had children by the name of Austin, Marshall, and Drew. We had a fish tank full of goldfish. These goldfish were special goldfish. They had bulging eyes. They were very, very interesting fish. We watched them quite a bit, and then I think we fed them too much because they began to get sick because the water quality wasn't good. So after my fish got sick, we ended up not having a fish tank at home anymore. I took my tank to the office, and then I got a bigger tank and a bigger tank, and I ended up raising fish for quite a while. I enjoyed having a fish tank. I had what is called African cichlids. That's a kind of fish that lived in a particular lake in the continent of Africa. The country they were in is called Malawi, and that's where the fish that I had came from, one lake in Africa. That's almost like that's a long way away, and that's a very small lake for a very big world, and it gives us lots and lots of fish. Well, people are breeding them, but they came from Africa. So I raised fish for several years at my office that came from Africa originally. And my fish would have baby fish and grow up, and then those baby fish would have baby fish. And I had multiple generations of fish in my fish tank. It was a very interesting hobby, and I got fairly good at keeping my fish tank clean. At the end, I had a 100-gallon tank in my office. And the bigger the tank, the easier it is to keep clean because it's more like a natural habitat. And all of the fish and all of the cleaning up fish, the catfish, all of the different kind of fish keep their environment clean. The lesson I learned from fish is that you have to keep your environment clean. That means you have to clean up your room, and you have to clean up the playroom and the living room and the dining room, and wherever it is that your toys end up, you have to help your mommy and daddy clean up. It's as important for you to help clean up as it is for this boy not to feed too much fish to Otto his fish, because it can end up being dangerous to the fish and making your house a mess. So that's the moral of today's story. Try to help keep your environment clean. That means help your mommy and your daddy clean up when you mess up. If you take your toys out, put them away. If you take your crayons out, for sure put them away because you don't want to lose them. You don't want them to get stepped on and broken. And that can happen to toys too. Well, that's the moral of our story today. I want to say, have a great day. If you can go outside and play, please do. Be nice to your sisters in Houston and your baby brother, and be nice to your brother and sister and baby brother in Fort Lauderdale. I love you all, and I'll talk to you again tomorrow when I read another book. Happy Passover, by the way. It starts tonight. Bye.